Thank you, Emmanuel. Bill Collis asked me to provide a summary of the conference, which I am happy and honored to be able to try to do. And when I give a talk, my wife reminds me of the 3 B's. Be brief, be blunt, and be gone. Okay. Now, I don't always listen to my wife, but it did give me pause for thought. I said, can I summarize this conference in one sentence? And I think I can. ICCF22 was an intellectual feast. I really feel that way. We had a buffet table set with physics and chemistry, biology, even medicine, geophysics, astrophysics, the list goes on. And we worked on multiple levels of nature, solid state, materials, nuclei, even elementary particles, standard physics, beyond the standard model. So both in breadth and vertically in depth, we had this marvelous, I view it as feast of just exciting things. Now, some people in the field are put off by the fact that it is so broad. But the first 30 years of my career, I worked in good, but more or less conventional areas, laser fusion and other things. And that was fine. We would go to conferences and they would be very homogeneous, okay? Nice trips, nothing wrong, give papers, normal science. But in the second 30 years of my career, I've had the good fortune to work in this field, and this is just wonderful on all levels, technically and socially. I'm very, very happy to be involved and to celebrate the breadth rather than to complain about the breadth of the field. Now, if I were to give a proper summary of this conference, I would go through paper by paper. Can't do that. It takes too much time, and also I undoubtedly would forget somebody or misstate their contributions. So I'm going to be very, very general. I'm going to talk about the 3 major areas: experiments, theory, and materials, and then make a few other comments. Now, when you look at the experiments that were reported at this conference, you find they fall into 2 categories: old experiments and new experiments. And it's always fun to come back in a year, year and a half, 2 years, and see the progress that has been made by the very serious efforts by very capable people on what I call old experiments, experiments that have been reported previously. It's also nice to see the sophistication of the experiments. I have said for many years, if somebody were to wander into one of these conferences, they would probably conclude they were at a scientific conference. Okay? I mean, it's normal. People stand up and they say why they did it and what they did and what they found. They respond to questions. They write papers. So in any event, we have a very proper functioning of science. And if you, again, back off and look again on the experimental side, many, many ways to produce nuclear reactions at conventional temperatures. You know, my one-sentence summary of 30 years in this field is that it is possible to generate nuclear reactions, cause to happen nuclear reactions with ordinary energies. Okay, that is a very simple but very, very important summary. Now, turning to theory, we're rethinking nuclear structure and nuclear reactions. Now, those of us who know a little something about nuclear physics will realize that it remains a mess. And that's not a knock on nuclear physicists. It's a description of the field. Liquid drop model, shell model, lattice models, all kinds of different models. It's fair to ask how they fit together, okay? And that's a very difficult question. It's like the blind man and the elephant. One model, identifies legs and another tail and another side and things like this. They don't see the whole picture as much as we would like. Now, one of the more interesting aspects of this field is that there are so many different observations, okay, and so many theories. Some of the theories claim to explain everything. So I have felt for a long time now that eventually somebody is going to win a Nobel Prize for solving this, for true understanding of this. And I use as an example superconductivity, discovered in 1911 by Camerlingionis, explained in the late 50s by Bardeen, Cooper, and Schrieffer. A clear explanation of what was going on in a very diverse and complicated field with lots of different materials and lots of different experiments. Okay, so one of the fascinations here. One of the questions is this going to be a winner-take-all thing where, you know, a person or a few people wind up in Stockholm, or will it be that this theory is going to explain part of it and this and so forth? So, in any event, I tell people that if you go to a movie, you have your entertainment in, you know, 2 or 3 hours. This field takes decades to play out, but it's a slow-motion movie with very, very high stakes, and it's very, very interesting. One of the curious things about this conference is that there was very little on materials compared to other conferences, composition, structure, and characterization, all these things. You heard reports based on nanomaterials, thin films, but there wasn't a whole lot of materials work as such here. Engineering, go from science to engineering to business. This was a science conference. We concentrated on science. But there was a lot of good engineering behind many of the experiments. And there were some business people, of course, in the audience. And it's going to happen, that we will evolve eventually from the scientific problem that we now have, this wonderful challenge, to doing more engineering and doing more business. So let me return, as I'm finishing, to what Mike McCubry invited us to do when he gave his opening talk on Monday. That is, communicate with the outside world, okay? So we've been on the defensive for 30 years, so I'm recommending to be offensive. Now that word, of course, is overstated. Let me say proactive, okay? So if you're dealing with colleagues, dealing with friends, and so forth, you have an incredible case to make. You are involved in a field that involves energy gains. Put 1 unit of electrical in and get many units of heat energy out. That portends cheap energy. Oh, wait. You can have small units. You don't need a multi-billion-dollar central power station that takes 10 years or more to build and has tremendous line losses in transmission. You can have it in your home, you know, maybe a cubic meter or less, okay? And that unit will run without frying you with prompt radiation. It will not leave significant radioactive waste behind. You can refuel it with a small amount of material in months, okay? And it doesn't produce greenhouse gases. So one of the questions that comes up is, will LANR be commercialized in time to impact global climate change? And I'm on the record as saying it's going to take like 20 years to do that because of what we need to learn, and then all of the steps, you know, experiments, prototypes, products, regulatory assistance, all of these things that have to be done. So I don't think that there's going to be a dramatic near-term impact, but you know, we're not dealing with decades. We're dealing with much longer time scales. I've got a couple of young granddaughters, so I'm very interested in a world in the future that is based on clean energy. So that's my summary. But let me wind up by taking advantage of my position here and providing some thanks, I'm sure, on the behalf of all of us. So Emmanuel and Akari, Electra, I don't know if they're here yet, but thank you very, very much for making these sessions run so well. Ruby, I think you're still back there. Thanks for taking care of the website and for everything else you do. Okay, where's Claudio? He has a good sense to be out of the room. I thank him for, I think he's responsible for getting us here, for ensuring that the program was such a social pleasure as well as a scientific pleasure. And even though he might not be able to hear us now, I'd like a hand for Claudio, please. And as you can see, I have saved Bill for the last. Bill, you've had a remarkable impact on this field, from founding the International Society for Condensed Matter Nuclear Science, the very good journal, John Paul, thank you, that is published, the many workshops you've organized, and now a highly successful conference. I hope you derive great personal satisfaction out of the many contributions to the field. We can't thank you enough.
Well, I too shall be very brief. I want to get home, I don't know about you. So this is also going to be a goodbye from me, because I'm going to leave in just a few minutes after this presentation. Thank you very much, Dave, for those very positive remarks. Claudio and I really appreciate your thanks and appreciation for the For the organization, for the entertainment, for the food, for I've had so many messages. This is really a very great source of satisfaction for both of us. Thank you, and thanks to everybody. I've been asked to provide some statistics. We had 152 participants, another 12 guests. I've guesstimated these, actually. So another 12 guests at the banquet yesterday. There were at least 27 posters, and it wouldn't surprise me if someone put up a poster clandestinely, but there was extra space for that. And there were 57 oral presentations. So quite a full program. I'm sorry you had to get up so early at 8 o'clock to come into this hall, so you all made a big sacrifice. By getting up early, you had to go to bed early, which saves us a lot of money with the open bar, so thanks for that. Some people. I think you all know you should have vacated your room at 10 o'clock this morning. And if you stole drinks from your fridge, you really ought to go and pay them at the reception desk of the hotel. And you should also take down any posters which are still up in the room over there, as it just causes extra work, and they'll be thrown away anyway if you don't take them down yourself. So I would certainly do that. You heard about the future meetings announced at the banquet yesterday, but maybe the audio wasn't that brilliant. The French Society for Condensed Matter Nuclear Science and ICCF22 are planning, but it's only at the planning stage at the moment, to hold a 14th workshop, probably in the south of France, probably in the spring of next year. And there's no ICCF next year, so this, I hope, will not interfere with anyone else's plans. ICCF23, as you know, will be held in China under the leadership of Professor Tian, probably also in the spring of the following year, 2021. I can't pronounce Chinese. Claudia and I would like to give a very big thank you to Asia, Misa, Elettra, Ursula, Emanuele, Ruby, and Alan. They've all contributed in different ways. Alan actually wrote the script last night. I got all the praise for the theatrics, but Alan did the bulk of the work. He's a great author. But also, Mark Snowbell and I also made some minor ad-libbing contributions to it. And of course, we need to thank the patrons, ICCF22, Lenria has generously donated calendars. Nick Energy was here yesterday. Assisi nel Vento has the long experience of organizing workshops and meetings here in Assisi. Infinite Energy, yes, okay. I don't think we put them as an official sponsor, though. Should we have done? The magazine, yes, sure. Many people contributed to the freebies. For some reason, the financial sponsors to the conference have wished to remain anonymous. Maybe they get overwhelmed with requests, I don't know. All the financial money, however, went to subsidize deserving people, particularly from Eastern Europe. Some of them came free, some of them came at half the normal rates. Some younger people came free, and so on. So basically, everybody who paid the standard fee is paying for their own expenses, and they did not subsidize other people. The subsidies came from the sponsorship. So I think that brings me to the end. Thank you all so much for coming. Stay for lunch, because that's included, but I won't be joining you. And have a good journey back home.
Hello, everybody. I would say that since ICCF16, we are publishing the proceedings of the conferences in the Journal of Condensed Matter Science. And the last one was in June in the US, and it was published only in September of this year, so it took 15 months to get together. And the reason is, one, there is a lot of papers. Second, some are sent to me late, sometimes the referees take a lot of time to do the work. Sometimes there are a lot of corrections, argument, discussions. I mean, and I do my best to have all the papers published. And my goal is to have the papers improved by referees, not rejected by referees. So that's the key important thing. Another thing is that the chairman of the conferences are very relaxed the last day of the conference, but now I get stressed because I have to do the work of the of the proceedings. And I know the more the papers, the more work. The best way to do it, send me your paper as soon as possible. I know people, I'm a flexible person, you know. I don't know, maybe you noticed that already. So I don't like to put deadlines, and what will we do when we are past the deadline? Anyway, you push the deadline a bit further, so it doesn't make any difference. Send it as soon as possible. It is really too late. Instead of being published in the proceedings, to be published in the next volume of the journal. It doesn't make much of a difference in 50 years from now, where it will be published. So send it to me as soon as you can, and you have to go, either you have my email address already, you can send it to me directly, it's the simplest way, otherwise you go on the website, and there is a way to send the papers they'll get to me anyway. So thank you very much, and I'd like to thank all the referees that do a lot of work working on the papers with the authors to improve the papers. Thank you very much.
At least, welcome in Assisi, I said when you went. I'm a little bit emotional because I'm sad because it's finished, it's over. But I think that I'll remember you in my heart. I hope to see you again in another occasion. But I want to thank to you. Thanks.